Okay. Well, first off, my name is Evan Stafford. I'm the Vice President of Sales at LeafLink. Quick intro on LeafLink. We're the world's largest B2B marketplace for wholesale cannabis. We were founded in Colorado about 3 years ago, and we've gone from working with one brand and one retailer in Colorado to 850 brands and 2,700 retailers and dispensaries across 15 states and Puerto Rico. We'll be live in 30 markets by the end of this year, including about 25 U.S. states, Canada, as well as a few other European countries. And here in Oregon, we have about 500 retailers shopping from 100 brands like Hushkana, Wana Brands, and a few large distributors like Sweet Life and Green Sea. To give you guys an idea about our scale, we're currently processing about $840 million in payments every year, so wholesale transactions through the platform. So retailers are placing about $840 million a year in wholesale orders through our platform across our 15 states. Sorry, my contact just fell off. Okay, there we go. All right, cool. Now let's talk about building your cannabis brand. So when you first set out building your cannabis brand, you want to immediately, let me see. All right, so when you first start out building your cannabis brand, you obviously want to assume expansion and start planning for that immediately. That comes in with naming. We had some companies that launched in California, and they named California-specific things like Humboldt Original and stuff like that. When they went to the East Coast, nobody had any idea what it was. So you definitely want to have an agnostic brand name if you're planning on expanding. For instance, we're built to work with the licensing structure of every state. Like I mentioned earlier, we're in 15 states right now. So if you're a California brand, you can only sell to California retailers and so on. If you're an Oregon retailer, you can only go online and see Oregon brands on the platform. When we go to a new state, it's as easy as adding in their licensing structure and flipping it on. When planning on going multi-state, another huge thing to think about is the difference between medical and rec. Typically, brands get accustomed to serving one or the other. So we see a lot of brands from Colorado expanding to other rec states like California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington. And then we see a lot of medical brands from states like Arizona and Maryland expanding to other medical-only states since they're used to the regulations and have the packaging and everything that kind of fits that market. Sometimes, however, we do see brands diversifying, going to both medical and rec-only states. One of the biggest factors that's kind of prohibiting East Coast expansion right now is the cost. So in Florida, there's only 13 dispensary cultivator/retail licenses. One just resold about 2 months ago for $40 million. So yeah, so it's pretty crazy. Like, when you think about getting a license in Oregon is around $10,000, like $100,000 in California, and $40 million in Florida. So pretty crazy to think about the differences between the East and West Coast. All right. And another thing to think about is obviously identifying the best markets for expansion. For instance, in Washington, vertical integration is prohibited, but in Florida and New York, vertical integration is actually required, which means that you have to grow, process, and sell everything in your own stores. So some of the largest players in New York, Columbia Care and Vireo Health, they own their own cultivation, they own their own manufacturing, they own their own retail stores. So when you go into a Vireo Health or Columbia Care store in New York, you only see their own products. Similarly, in Florida, two of the largest players are Surterra Wellness and AltMed in Florida. And I think Surterra Wellness has 2 brands under Surterra and 23 dispensaries throughout Florida. So when you go in there, you only see their products. And they're predominantly in medical-only states, but they're now expanding to a lot of rec markets through partnerships with major brands like Wana and Jimmy Buffett's Coral Reefer. So Surterra Wellness just expanded to California and Nevada using Jimmy Buffett's brand. And AltMed, which is in Florida, just expanded to Nevada and Arizona through Wana. And then on the flip side, there is some opportunity to get into markets like Florida and New York without having to pay that $40 million price tag. It's by partnering with these companies. So Dosis, which is California's largest vape company or vape pen producer, they just partnered with Surterra Wellness, basically licensed their product to them. Surterra now grows, manufactures, and produces the Dosis pens. And so you can walk into a Surterra Wellness store in any one of their stores in Florida and actually buy the Dosis pens. And it's grown to their recipes, their brand specifications, all that. So there is opportunity to expand into these highly regulated medical markets by basically contacting and reaching out, letting them know that you have a popular brand on the West Coast and that you want to go to the East Coast. And then if they like your brand, they like your product, they'll do a licensing agreement with you. All right. And then another thing is understanding specific demands and challenges of different states and markets. So demand for certain products and types vary by state. Here you can take a look at the breakdown of what products are sold by what state on LeafLink. So you can look at states like Maryland, Oregon, and Washington, where you see flower is predominantly what sells. I think Oregon's about 55% of all products sold in Oregon on LeafLink is flower. And then you look at Colorado, it's under 10%. If you look at Nevada, vape cartridges are actually the largest product category, which is the only state out of all of our 15 that are like that. Another thing to look at when you're thinking about expanding new markets is evaluating the pricing of the product category that your brand covers in those potential markets. So if you look at wholesale price for a pound of flower here in Oregon is about $750. If you look at Alaska or Maryland, it's about $3,500 for a pound of wholesale, which is 4 to 5x Oregon. So that bodes really well if you're a flower brand going to those states, but it's a lot harder to turn a profit and have a sustainable flower brand here in Oregon. And another thing is adjusting your messaging to different markets. So when I talked earlier about having a state-specific or regional-specific name that other markets are not going to understand, similarly for your products. So there should definitely be a level of consistency across your messaging and branding. Each market has its own culture that you need to cater to in order to get the local buy-in. So brand name consistency is key. Mary's Medicinals, which is also here in Oregon, is one of our largest multi-state clients. They're with us in 8 states, 8 out of our 15 states. So they're called Mary's Medicinals in 7 states. However, they're just Mary's in Washington due to the word medicinal being prohibited in Washington. But they keep their name consistent. They keep their packaging, their product consistent across every market. So if you walk into a retailer in California, in Oregon, in Maryland, in Michigan, you're going to find the same exact Mary's products, the same recipes, the same dosage, everything like that. So it's the same experience. Which is why they become one of the most popular multi-state brands. You also want to evaluate your price point and your customer demographics to ensure that you're putting your products in markets and in stores where your target customer actually shops. So here we just have a couple different pictures of a few of the dispensaries that order from us across different states. So we have one in Washington. You can see they're kind of more boutique, smaller. One's in Arizona, which are a little bit more, modern and flashy. You have like a MedMen in West Hollywood, which is the largest retailer in California now. They hired the guy from that designed the Apple stores that come in. So when you walk in there, someone like greets you with an iPad, and there's like spa water, and they walk you around, and you can't actually touch any products. They just basically type in what you want on a computer, and then they tell you what lines up with what you want. So that's a completely different experience. You have more normal dispensaries here in Colorado. So it's all about kind of what your brand is and what kind of retailers you want to go into when going into these different markets. California is obviously a lot more ritzy. You have places like Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada that have a lot more normal dispensaries, as I call them. And you have one here in Portland, just a picture. All right. And then also establishing a recognizable brand name and persona that's going to resonate from state to state as you expand. Here we just use an example of Mary's Medicinals on social media. Sorry that the font messed up right there. So social media is actually a great way that you can use to market across state lines. The cannabis industry has so many kind of regulations about where you can and can't market. If you guys heard that Super Bowl ad just got banned by CBS, I think, for medical marijuana. So social media is one place where you can use branding. We've also seen it, very effective for a lot of our brands when they're getting out there. There's not a lot of places to advertise, so social media has been one of the most effective ways of getting their name out there as they expand to new states. As I mentioned earlier, keeping branding and packaging very consistent, unless there is, regulations like Washington or stuff that says you can't have the packaging the same. You also want to get out and engage with the retailers in the community when you're going out there to build your brand awareness. So something we did last June in California was a retailer road trip in California. So we flew into San Diego. There was about 3 of us. We started in San Diego at the Mexico border and drove all the way up to Oregon over 3 weeks and stopped at every dispensary in California. We walked in there. We gave them a demo of the product, showed them how to order on LeafLink and all that. And we're doing another one upcoming in February, and now we have 7 major California brands that are actually going on it with us because they saw the success of it. A lot of people don't actually put in the effort to go out there and meet all the purchasing managers and meet everyone. So when you're going to a new state, retailers are like the gatekeeper. When you're getting there, they're the ones that are going to be ordering your product. So taking the time to get out there and actually meet with them and connect them, something that 99% of brands don't actually do, but it goes a long way with them. Also consistent, I keep calling that consistent. So consistent branding also enhances your overall brand image. This is what a retailer would see when they're ordering on LeafLink for Mary's in Colorado and what they'd see in Michigan. The exact same thing except where it says sold by Colorado, sold by Michigan. So they want the exact same experience, consumer experience, retailer experience across all their markets, regardless of location. And in addition to that, consumers have been conditioned to start expecting these consistent experiences across the country and even the world with things like alcohol and soda and all that. And when you go have a Diet Coke or a Bud Light in Portland, in Los Angeles, in New York, it's the same branding, it's the same taste, it's the same experience. And that directly translates to what people in cannabis want now, which is why the most successful multi-state brands offer that same consumption experience. It doesn't matter if you're in Portland, in Los Angeles, in Baltimore, Maryland, and New York. When you have a Mary's Medicinals patch, it's the exact same experience everywhere. Same branding, so it becomes kind of a recognizable thing, and people are conditioned to start going after it. And then obviously, like I mentioned earlier, connecting with your stakeholders is a huge key in gaining the market penetration in these new states. As I mentioned, the retailers are the gatekeeper of these new markets. So getting out there, connecting with them, using social media. Instagram is huge. We have a ton of brands that actually reach out to us and reach out to other retailers that actually do business on Instagram, which is kind of before LeafLink gets to a market and before there's actually an ordering system there. A lot of these new markets like Alaska, Oklahoma, which we just got into, they don't have anywhere to do business, so they're doing it on social media. So as when you're thinking about expanding your brand to new markets, it's great to have a big social media presence out there and be very active in connecting with your retailers. Another great way is to come to all these industry events. There's a ton of meetups, trade shows, awesome conferences like the one we're at today, and also industry publications. Another great way is by understanding the platforms that these people are using, your target customers. So when you guys as a brand, you're obviously wanting to sell to purchasing managers at these dispensaries. So figuring out exactly what technology, what platforms they use actually allows you to connect with them. For example, in Colorado, our first state, 95% of all retailers in Colorado, which is over 800 of them, use LeafLink every day as their primary wholesale ordering to stock their stores. So if you're a new brand launching in Colorado, you immediately want to connect with 95% of the retailers. You get an account on LeafLink, and then you have all the retailers right there waiting for you. When you're familiar with the platforms they're using, you can better understand what their pain points are, and then work with them to kind of solve those pain points and get your name out there. Another important thing is centralizing your operations across state lines. So when you're let's say you start here in Oregon, similar to Cura Cannabis and Select, they now have their headquarters in Los Angeles. They're going multi-state. So it's really important to centralize your operations somewhere, have a key decision maker. This industry is unique in that operations cannot be 100% centralized due to regulations and financial limitations. But you want to centralize operations where you can in order to reduce confusion, inconsistency. There needs to be a key decision maker at the company. A lot of people are going to be licensing their names out to other producers in random states to basically just carry their brand out there. But you need to make sure that you guys are in control of the branding. Is each market adhering to your brand guidelines, your persona? The quality control. Is the recipe consistent across markets? Are the consumers getting that same consumption experience regardless of where they're trying your product? The branding in each market, streamlining the decision making, like I mentioned earlier, who has the final say, and then also the aggregation of sales data. So with LeafLink, let's take Mary's again, for example, or Organa Brands, Open Vape, which are also with us in 7 states. When they get on their account, they actually see kind of a 360 view of everything that's going on in their company. What are sales in California? What are sales in Oregon? What are sales in Washington? What are sales in Colorado? What products are doing best in what state, what sales reps are doing best, what retailers haven't placed orders, and hundreds of other features that they can see. So really important to have everything kind of streamlined from your corporate office, if you want to call it that. And then one of the most important, this is a really old picture, I think we have about 50 people at the company now, but I think maybe the most important is beating your competition with an ultra-competitive team. So hiring the best people out there, finding talented and hardworking people from inside and outside the industry. Us, for example, we have headquarters in New York, in Los Angeles, we have offices in Portland, in Denver, basically in every state we're in, have a small office there. And then also hiring experienced cannabis people who know the industry, and then also people from outside the industry that can bring kind of their knowledge and their learnings and success in building companies to the cannabis industry to help us keep moving forward. All right. Guys have any questions or want to talk through anything?
I'm actually wondering how you are able to gather the data across states. I mean, I even asked for a book from, I'm working in accounting and tax, from CCH, which is a big tax and books, well known. Where are you obtaining your information just for, say, price points and?
So everything's actually listed. Our site is very similar to like an Amazon where all the different brands, so we have 850 brands, 2,700 retailers across the country right now. So those brands go on there and they build menu pages on our site. And then, so it's like live inventory, they're updated menus, and the retailers go on there. So we actually have all the purchasing data saved over the past 3 years. So we know exactly what every retailer is ordering, what products they're ordering, what price they're paying for everything, what time of year is busiest, what products sell best at what time of year. So all that's internal data that we have.
Do you guys provide that to your clients?
We don't do anything with the data yet. We're just starting to get into that. We just published, if you guys go to our website, my cards are up here, but if you go to leaflink.com, you can actually download, I think it's right in the middle of the webpage, but it says wholesale pricing guide. So we just put that out, and we basically took the last 3 years of data and have a pricing guide for all 15 of our markets, and basically showing exactly what concentrates, edibles, every different product category that we have, all the pricing on there, and what the wholesale price is. So that's really handy if you're thinking about going to other states and getting into there.
That's helpful.
Yeah, so you can just download that for free right from the website.
And what about the regulations for each state? Because certain ones have, you can advertise this way, you can market this way, you have to have packaging this way. Any suggestions on where you go for that? For compliance?
For compliance, I think, like if you're thinking about starting a brand in a new state, or I think the best way to go is going to the, I guess here in Oregon it's the OLCC, but going in California, the Bureau of Cannabis Control, every state has their own thing. Going to their website is usually the first place that I recommend, just looking at that. If you want to pay for it, they have consultants, obviously, in every state that can help you do all that. But I think it's obviously easiest to just go to the websites and look at everything. I know Oregon and California have some of the strictest ones. If you go to like Oklahoma, I think they have 0 testing standards, no packaging, anything like that. And they gave unlimited licenses. So they basically, I think Oklahoma went medically legal in November, and they already have 500 dispensaries and 286 brands. Yeah, in like 3 months. So they have absolutely no regulations about anything. You can grow. There's like $2,000 and you got a license basically. So pretty interesting out there.
I thought Oregon was easy.
Yeah, and no wait list. They just basically gave it to everybody. Like I use, there's a couple websites I use to kind of look and compile licenses. I was looking, there's like some people that own, because of how cheap it was out there, some people own 36, 40 dispensary licenses in Oklahoma, so, yeah.
Has that been there that many people in?
Yeah, it's tiny. Portland's probably bigger. I don't know the exact population, but.
I'm just going to jump in real fast. I'm Sarah, the account executive in Oregon for LeafLink. Your best bet would be to, whether it's California, Oregon, Alaska, you can sign up for email updates from each of the states as
Okay.
well. So it emails me anytime there's a rule change or a discussion that's happening. That's a great way to get an overview for sure.
And like NCIA membership or?
NCIA is good for, I think, some more
National.
macro information,
Okay.
more like national.
Yeah.
And I think legislative trends and things that are going forward, but for specific pricing and purchasing data and things like that, what we have comes from our site. The rules for compliance, I'd go to the state, and then you can also look at some other programs that are maybe not as all-inclusive, but it'll give you an idea, like BDS Analytics is a
I'm
good
sorry,
one.
what, EDS?
BDS.
Analytics, that'll give you kind of an overview of the people working with them as well, their habits.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned advertising too. So we have also advertising on our platform. So if you're one of our 850 brands, you can, like let's say you're a California, Oregon brand, I think Smokies was one of the ones that recently did an ad with us. But you can actually go on there and put platform ads. So if you think about like Amazon again, if you're going on there and you type in t-shirts and you have the sponsored t-shirt brand at the top like on Amazon. So with us, you go on there, you can shop brands and Smokies will be, or whoever's advertising, will be like plastered at the very top of our shop brands page. So every time a purchasing manager goes on there, which is obviously their target customer, they actually see that right on there. They can advertise new product releases, anything like that. So they can also advertise, and since ours is a fully compliant and licensed platform, we have to verify everyone has a license and call, verify the address is correct, the license is current before we let anyone on the platform. It's actually a totally compliant way to advertise too. So even states where cannabis ads are completely banned, like Maryland, you can advertise in Maryland on LeafLink. Yes? Oh, I think about you too. But that is cool.
So I noticed you used Mary's Medicinals as a great example, but I'm not seeing topicals as a category on your site, on your whole site pricing guide.
On the pricing guide, topical does not because it's such a small one. But Mary's does a lot. Yes.
Microphone. The recording, if you're asking a question, it's not going to be unless you go to the microphone or you pass the microphone around.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Can you tell us more about topicals, please?
Where were you that data?
Yes, we would love that data.
Connect with Sarah after. We'll send you some. No, but yeah. So topicals was just it's a very small category compared to the edibles and flower brands and a lot of the other stuff we have on there. So we didn't necessarily break it out as its own category. But Mary's is a great, one of our. I mean, we have a lot of great selling topicals: Apothecana, Mary's, and a few others. So if you guys are interested, yeah.
We're already signed up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're one of your
Yeah,
brands.
we're one of your brands.
Oh, okay. You work with Sarah?
Yep.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. And do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question about brands that work with wholesalers.
Mhm.
So like we work with a wholesaler and they have LeafLink,
Mhm.
but you're talking about brands being able to purchase ad spaces.
Mhm.
I mean, do brands typically have a LeafLink page as well with a wholesaler, or like how does that like whole thing?
It depends. So you're here in Oregon?
Yeah,
Okay. So brands that typically sometimes, who is your wholesaler?
farmers market.
Okay. So yeah, so they have you guys listed so a lot of the wholesalers, and same thing in California with our distributors, they have a page and they'll basically put your brand on there as not necessarily a fully broken out page. It's just listed on their overall menu. So in that sense, they could technically buy advertising and sponsor, yes.
Okay.
Or what we do in California, a lot of brands will, so we have a lot of distributors in California and they have the brands listed there too. And then a brand will get their own page as well so they can advertise and have orders coming in both ways. So it totally depends on how you guys want to have it flowing in.
Okay.
But yeah, so if you could, if you want to reach out to them or connect with Sarah afterwards, she can definitely talk to you about that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think the future holds? Just one giant corporation selling all the cannabis, or do you think there's still room for the small guys in the future?
I think there's always going to be like a lot of hundreds and hundreds of brands. We're just kind of the ones that like aggregates and helps. So we don't actually do any distribution. We don't touch any of the product. We're just connecting. So ours is a great way if you're a small brand in Oregon, a small brand in California, so you get the same exposure as these guys that have the unlimited marketing budgets and all that. So I do think there will be some kind of what's the word? Totally spacing. Consolidation, yeah. So I think there will be a lot of consolidation, and we've already seen that with some of these guys that I was mentioning, like Certera Wellness in Florida. They're just going around and buying popular brands in every state, and instead of having to wait and get licensed, they're just going in there and being, here's $5 million. And MedMen in California, here's $5 million, here's $10 million. We'll buy that. So I think there will be a lot of consolidation, but I still think there's always going to be, like the craft cannabis and a lot of other really cool small brands that people want to order from.
Consumers demand variety
Yeah.
and quality as well, and so even with the consolidation, I don't think customers will accept just one
Yeah.
type of cannabis, one quality, and that coming from a giant conglomerate as much as particularly here in Oregon.
You look at alcohol too. They still have the huge companies like Anheuser-Busch and all that, but you still go and they have craft beer everywhere. They still have a ton of wine. There's no I can't think of one wine that like dominates all the others, and that's been around for hundreds of years. So I think there'll definitely always be a good amount of variety. And like she said, I think a lot of people don't want them to, these huge corporations. Like no one wants Marlboro to get involved and own every. They have like Marlboro Greens already patented for when they can do that. So I think that people want to stay away from that, and there'll always be a ton of variety in small brands.
I just wanted to say I did purchasing for a chain of dispensaries, and I think LeafLink provided a lot of savings as far as time spent, and so I definitely appreciate that. And I also wanted to ask you, as far as sales goes, what do you guys have in mind as far as revenue and a possible IPO, or do you guys plan on going public anytime soon?
So as far as that, since we're still private, I can't actually share the our revenue goal numbers. But so we have there's a lot of different options for what we could do. I think the biggest thing is we want to just continue expanding and growing and stay private as long as possible. We've only taken in a little bit of investor money, so we're still privately owned by the co-founders, and obviously all of our employees also have a share of the company. But yeah, so we like to stay kind of family owned and family and friend owned, I guess is the better word, as long as possible, and then just keep growing and helping as many small brands and people come to market as possible. Good? Any other questions? All right, I think we finished 10 minutes early. All right, thank you.